We are in week 4 of Minority Mental Health Month, about to get into Wellness Wednesday once Katrina is ready to go live. As you come in, go ahead and get yourself ready for today's conversation. There's been a lot going on this month around mental health, community mental health, especially with our celebrities in our community, all that good stuff. So we're about to get into it. And so bring in Katrina now. Uno momento, and we're live. Hello.
Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Quickly becoming one of my favorite days of the week. How
Oh,
are you?
good. I am okay. I'm doing good today. How are you?
I'm doing good today too. Doing good today too. It's a little, well, it's clearing up now. It's a little cloudier than I wanted or expected for the start of Leo season. But no complaints. No real complaints.
Yeah, I'm definitely missing California sun today. I was not happy. I was like, where'd she go? I need
I
her back.
know. We're so spoiled. We have one cloudy day and we're like, what's going on?
Right. Bad enough we're inside. I kind of need it to feel like
Right.
summer outside. Like that helps. But if I'm inside and it's cloudy, I don't like it.
Right. No. I'm already not getting the hot girl summer I deserve. The least you can do
Right.
is give me some sunshine. Okay.
Give me
So
some sunshine, please.
I
Good.
feel that.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I'm excited for what we're gonna be talking
I
about today.
know.
I know. So let's let's go ahead and hop right into it. Thank you. Hi, hello to everybody who is hopping on and who is watching this video later after we've posted it. My name is Kayla, and I am a yoga psychotherapist, founder of The Well Healing. Really excited to be here again, talking with Katrina about community mental health and wellness for Minority Mental Health Month. And you're
Yes, I'm Katrina. I am a holistic healing arts therapist in Inglewood, California, and founder of Manifesting Me Wellness. And yeah, happy to be here with our Wellness Wednesdays, talking more about what's going on in our community as far as our mental health is concerned.
yes.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, so I had really been thinking a lot about the examples that are kind of just right in our face, right? It's Minority Mental Health Month, and I feel like there have been a lot of really big conversations about mental health because of different, particularly, especially like Black celebrities that are sharing or have just had their stories shared in the
Right.
media. Um, and so I'll just say that firstly, we're going to be having, this is more for folks watching than you and I, but we're going to be having a very compassionate, non-judgmental dialogue because I just want to be clear that I know that there's a lot of
Right.
speculation or discussion right around celebrity mental health especially, and so there is no diagnosing or anything of
Right.
that going on, but I feel like it's important for us to address and to talk about because these are really big conversations that folks are having. So yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that because I think it's really important that we are mindful of not putting any kind of diagnoses on people. If people have shared their diagnosis, that is, their right and their choice. But as mental health professionals who are not working with these individuals, it's just not appropriate for us to put that information or put those diagnoses on those labels on folks. So just being really mindful of how we're like approaching what we're talking about when we're discussing what's happening with folks.
So don't get it twisted. This is a casual kiki between two Black women who happen to know a lot about mental health, mental wellness.
Right.
Right. So specifically, some of the people who come to mind for me, some of the conversations that I've been having with folks in my own life have been and just general content warning around talking about potentially triggering topics as we talk about mental health, mental wellness. But Tamar Braxton, right? There's been a lot of news around a recent attempt to end her life and her being hospitalized. I think of Kanye and the ways that his mental health is showing up, especially on Twitter and, tweet rants and all that good stuff. And I also think of Amanda Seales, who hasn't had any like big explosive type of events happening, but even her sharing that she had like a mental breakdown and just the impact on her emotional well-being and being a Black woman in her industry. So yeah, that's kind of and that's a lot that's on my mind. But for you, is there anything that you want to add to that, or have you been having any of those conversations as well?
I've been having a lot of these conversations lately. In our women's circle on Sunday, it came up. It also came up in a few client sessions over the last few days, mostly talking about Kanye. I actually just heard about Tamar yesterday from a client bringing it up. I had no idea. So it's definitely something that I think is on the forefront of people's minds. And obviously, we've been in this state of being bombarded with information via social media lately as well. And I'm also just noticing how it's impacting other people's experiences of their own mental health, not just how, like, okay, celebrities are having this issue and like, how are we determining where we are with that or how are we reacting to that? But watching the reactions of others is also determining how people are feeling about their own mental health and how people will receive where they are, how they're feeling, and things of that nature. So that's something that I think has been on the forefront, as well as just how it impacts family members and other members of the community when someone is struggling, and like as a celebrity, your information is out there for the world to see. So definitely been having a lot of these conversations.
Right. And I feel like that's an important part of like what we're witnessing, is that the things that are happening on this celebrity level that makes it to a blog is also though very much what's happening in our very own families, in our very own communities, or maybe you are the person who shares this diagnosis or presentation. So I didn't even think about how it feels to be somebody who has experienced these things. Well, of course I have, because actually, yes, I have. But just how it feels as well, whether you are the person with a particular diagnosis, or you're just the loved one of someone with a particular diagnosis or experience, how these conversations are impacting how you feel about yourself and the people around you. Wow. Yeah.
And I think what's challenging for people in this moment is like, one, how will I be received if people knew what my diagnosis was or knew the things that I experienced? Two, kind of side-eyeing some folks that they typically would trust and uncomfortable going to about some of their mental health issues because of the way that they are responding to celebrities in this moment. But then also just this question or idea of like the global world and how the world is perceiving them, and then also like internally how that impacts how they perceive themselves as well. Because I think a lot of these diagnoses are also then being stigmatized even more or on different levels. And you know, some folks have come out right and said, this is my diagnosis, this is what I'm experiencing. And so then we start to stigmatize that diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just a lot of like gray area where we don't know what's happening. And
Right.
so people are just like putting labels on folks and identifying things and calling people crazy or whatever the case may be. And I think that internalization of those labels is also even larger than the diagnosis itself. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I think is coming up for a lot of folks.
Yes, because it's definitely telling, like the way that people respond to even something that can feel so outrageous, right? As like Kanye, that there are people in a lot of our lives who we know have displayed similar type of reactions to things before, and that um, somebody with a celebrity status is still a person,
Mm-hmm.
and that part as well. But it definitely provides a certain stage, right, for us to be able
Right.
to witness certain things that are already happening, and makes me think a lot about like how many of us are unsure how to practice care, right? For people
Mm-hmm.
in our lives who may be officially diagnosed and also who may not be. And you see, or I've seen, right, how some things feel like just a lack of awareness or
Yeah.
education because, right, mental health has been so stigmatized, especially in Black communities, and how some of the things that are being shared in response to this public platform of
Right.
mental health discussions, just responses that show that there's not always an education around what mental health really means, and
Right.
how these different, even like, I know we keep throwing around diagnosis, but I encourage people sometimes to even just think about they're just different states of consciousness. Like it's just
Right.
different ways, right, that
Yeah.
you are showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how to provide care around us and others when there are states of consciousness around us that might
Yes.
sometimes even be harmful, right, at worst, or are just um, bizarre or disorienting or different for us
Right.
in general. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think acknowledging also that every diagnosis has like layers and levels of symptomology. And so just because you've seen one person on TV who presents in this
Right.
way, that does not mean that's what it looks like. And for many people, it probably doesn't look that way because the way that we are being presented with things is often, even in real people's lives, like real celebrities, like we're often not seeing the more mild cases or the
Right.
cases that are like typical everyday folks that you see on a regular basis. We tend to call attention more to the people who are really having larger episodes, who are doing things that are more uncomfortable, right? Or more outside
Yeah.
of what's considered the norm in society. Those are the people we tend to see. Those
Mm-hmm.
are the people that get represented in the media. And so also recognizing that whatever you are seeing and hearing is not really completely a full representation of what that diagnosis is.
Right.
And we don't have all the information either. So that diagnosis could be a part of the reason why they're acting in the way that they're acting,
Mm-hmm.
but there could also be so many other situations that are happening that are actually causing this episode that are not related to their mental health. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that people tend to forget as well. It's like you can have a diagnosis and be completely managed until something else happens.
Right.
Something else happens, and now all of a sudden you're having episodes or you're doing things that are a little bit more erratic or whatever. And so I think just also being mindful of those pieces is really important, and understanding that everything varies. There's variation in all of this.
Yes, yes. And it's easy, right, to look at a celebrity and think that we have all the answers, but unless you are, and this is for anybody actually, unless you are that person's clinician,
Right.
you're not
Right.
in a position to be able to um, throw on all of your assumptions, because a lot of it is just assumption and projection that's happening. And that's why in us thinking about what does care look like, firstly, like having educating yourself, or just being aware that like you're impacted, right? And the ways that it makes you feel, to like start by validating and normalizing that you even have this reaction, right? Whether it's from this celebrity example or if it's from someone in your own life, like validating, when I see this person acting this way, it makes me feel X, Y, and Z. And to normalize, right? That when we see, especially people that we know in our lives, like exhibiting different behaviors that might make us feel uncomfortable, that it's not bad, right? To have negative feelings around that thing, and that what might come next after just acknowledging, right, there's this person in my life who maybe is more managed or not, like educating yourself on then what am I dealing with, and how is it impacting me, and also how is it impacting this other person, if you are able to provide that kind of support. But just firstly, that acknowledgement and that awareness, right, when it is showing up in our, especially like in our families and stuff, and then taking the time to, okay, how can I provide care then for myself and for this other person. And I think education alone about what is bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Did you know that there's a 1 and a 2, and that matters? How do I support my loved one after they've attempted to end their life, and what do I need as the person who also survived this experience with them, right? That these are the hard conversations, but they're the important conversations if we want to really have a different relationship with our wellness and our mental health as a community.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think being honest both with yourself and with the other person, like acknowledging, like you said, how are you feeling and what's coming up for you? Because we sometimes have to remove or at least process those things before we can really provide care. Because if we are coming in with stigma, if we're coming in with a lot of fear and frustration and all of that, then maybe we are not able to provide much care in this scenario right now. Maybe later we can. But, you know, also you have room to state where you're at. So if it makes you feel fearful, or if it's challenging for you, when that person is in a better place to have a conversation, that conversation can be processed together. But being honest with yourself so that you are not projecting that onto that person. And then also asking them if you have availability to do so. Like, how is this impacting you, and what does it look like to have care? What are you needing? Because I think we also often we come up with ideas of how we think this should go, or how we think we should care for this person, or what we, again, think their diagnosis is, because you can read online all about all kinds of stuff, but you may not know how that person experiences it. And so asking them, like, this is what I've read, this is what I understand, what is your experience? Because that makes a huge difference in how they are operating.
No, yes, because for real, and I feel like that is such an intersectional, aligned activist approach of not, because it can get really ableist really fast if we're thinking, I know what's best for this person, I'm going to care for them the way that I think that they should, versus if it is possible, actually creating a dialogue, a conversation, a collaboration, right? And not recreating the trauma that happens for a lot of folks who do experience moments of mental health challenge, whose autonomy is stripped away. So I really, really love that you said that. And also want to ground as well, like the put your own mask on first, right? I saw someone commented about how we all, right, have moments where we feel triggered, and that a part of the work is, right, just being able to feel grounded and secure in yourself enough before even feeling like it is your responsibility to fix or to save, which we cannot, right? Other people, right? So spending time and learning more about the ways that it triggers you and what it brings up for you and how it's really impacted you, right? Is a huge part of the work. And I think allows, when you are able to have those conversations of what is this experience looking like for you, and what does it look like for me to provide care, you're already in a position where you're resourced in order to pour out for somebody else. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it provides a level of care of just like, I'm here to understand rather than I'm here to fix or I'm here to change. If I can ask you, what is your experience and what's happening? Like, you might find out, yes, this person is really anxious, but they're only anxious in these situations.
Right.
And that makes a huge difference. Or you might, I think I'm just bringing up anxiety because I work a lot with anxiety, but the biggest thing I hear from people is like, oh, the moment I tell people I'm anxious, they're like, oh, just go to yoga. And I'm like, yeah, no. Like that doesn't work for everyone. And there's different types of yoga, and only certain types of yoga will help, or different things of that nature, depending on your experience in yoga. It could also be re-traumatizing. And so just being mindful of, what are the things that you've already tried? How have they helped or not helped? What are the things that are really triggering for you that, you know, maybe I can't help you to eliminate those things, but how can I help you navigate, or at least not add to them when we're in those moments? And just, what are you needing or looking for from other folks in these moments? Like, how can I show up for you if and when I'm able to? And I think being able to have that conversation comes from a place of, I'm trying to understand and I'm trying to help you in whatever way you need to be helped, from this place of care, rather than I know, or I'm trying to fix it, or different things like that. Even as clinicians, being really mindful of that when we're showing up in the room.
Yep, 1,000%. I try to always reinforce for my clients that you're the expert. No one knows your experience better than you do. And I can be here to help, but ultimately, right, it's you who knows best about what support will look like. And as people who are in positions around loved ones as they are navigating, in addition, right, to the work that you just outlined, even having a sense of what are the resources in the community around you, should you feel like this is too much or it's overwhelming. So this can get dicey, of course, because there are parts of the mental health field that are still very much connected to the state and police presence. And it is helpful to, before even reaching a crisis state, to check out if there are some community options around you. There might be like a community task force or community wellness options that are available. There might as well just be something like a support group for somebody who, for example, is maybe living in a house where someone is struggling with substance use, you know, and finding what are the options that are available around me already. And even
Mhm.
sometimes just having that awareness, like, okay, if some stuff hits the fan, this is who I can call for this. This is where I
Yeah.
can go for that, can do a lot of just creating a sense of safety that can do a lot for just easing a lot of tension that can
Right.
sometimes add to uh, crisis happening in the first place. So find those
Absolutely.
resources. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think the point you made is really important because so we're talking very globally about people having people in their homes or loved ones that are experiencing mental health, but we're looking at the Black community specifically.
Yeah.
It's really challenging in a lot of ways to be able to access some of the things that we would normally say to access
Right.
because you're right, there's potential that they will call the police or there's a larger task force that might be involved that will involve some kind of law enforcement. And we know how we are with them right now,
Mm-hmm.
or in general, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
being really mindful of when you are looking into resources, maybe calling and just asking how they would normally handle a situation like that, getting as informed as you can about who's going to be showing up if there is
Mm-hmm.
somebody that you call and they
Yeah.
are going to call somebody out, like what does that look like? Making sure that they have trained mental health professionals that are showing up, they have social workers and mfts or
Yeah.
people who can really provide resourcing and assistance who are not just looking to hospitalize or institutionalize in other ways, because that also changes the dynamic of what it looks like when those folks show up and how that person is responding.
Yeah.
It is very scary in a lot of ways, especially as people of color, as Black folks, like when some of these entities are called in, that can also exacerbate the issue.
Yeah.
That being noted, also take care of yourself. So you know that if things are getting out of hand, like do what you have to do to make sure that you are safe first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that is such a fine line that we have to walk a lot of the times, is like keeping myself safe, but then also making sure, because this person may not be in their best state, that I'm also making sure that they're safe and okay.
Yes.
So yeah, just it's such a testy place to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The
Yeah.
intersectionality comes back in again, right? And Black, disabled, whether that's temporarily in the moment in crisis or if there is a chronic mental health challenge, that the Black disabled folks are even more vulnerable, right,
Yeah.
to police violence. So keeping that in mind. And very practically, right, what it can look like to start to collect resources around you. If you're in the US, 211 is a number that you can call in any state, and that can be a start for you finding local resources. You can ask them, I need mental health resources for insert whatever city that you're in. A
Yeah.
Google search, of course.
Yeah.
Looking into even with your insurance, what are my options?
Mhm.
If you go to the Well Healing's Instagram, there's a BLM highlight that has a lot of different community resources and options in there. So taking the time to have already maybe just like 2 or 3, 3 to 5, whatever, just options
Right.
for yourself should you and your loved ones need support. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I always recommend just having a list somewhere that anybody in the home can access, that's readily available, that can be used at any point in time, and being really specific. And since we're talking about community care, like who are the other members of your community who are a part of this person's support system that you can
Oh
also call?
yes,
Right? Like
yes.
it doesn't have to necessarily be another institution, but maybe there are just community members, an elder who can talk to this
Yes.
person, members of, their a sports team that they've been a part of, or like a community park that they tend to frequent, or just people that they tend to hang out with often that we can call in. That because sometimes it's about getting grounded, and being grounded sometimes looks like having people who love and care about you around you, talking to you, engaging with you in like a normal space, so that you start to feel more like yourself again. And so also just identifying members of the community who might be aware of what's happening, who have an understanding and are not going to be more triggering, and who can come in and provide even just a conversation or just containment. Sometimes it's just about containing them until they are able to kind of move through whatever's happening. And so also thinking through like, who are the community members? If you're part of a church or some kind of like religious community or faith community, doesn't have to be religion, but just any community that you already have or that person already has is such a powerful resource as well. And I know that's challenging because we're socially distancing and things of that nature, but I still think that there are ways that we can utilize that and make it a little bit more comforting and less feel less punitive to the person who is having this experience.
Yes. Thank you so much for adding all that goodness. Yes. So really create the set of resources that are best for you and yours, because again, you're the expert, so you might have a little bit of institution, you might have a lot of bit of community, whatever that looks like. And of course as well, doing the work of even for yourself, like understanding how is this experience impacting me in my body, in the way that I think about myself and the world, and also just how I find myself feeling day to day. And I think that there's so much more that we could say, right, about community mental health, and how it plays out on the celeb scale, but in considering ourselves in the here and now, I hope that folks can have heard something today that's a useful start to creating a support system for yourself and for your loved ones. And is there anything you want to add on before I cannot believe it's already, every time it's the end, I'm like, I cannot believe
it goes by so fast.
It goes by too fast.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I think for me, because I'm very boundary driven, just acknowledging, we talked a little bit about taking care of yourself. And so just want to normalize and validate that if you are somebody who is having to caregive for someone who is often not in a comfortable state of mind for you, that it is okay to have some respite, to take a break, to walk away in certain ways if that's what you're needing. That's why having community resources is really helpful, someone else that can kind of jump in so that you don't always have to be the person who is coming in between them and whatever experience they're having. But I think really just grounding in the fact that you don't have to be the only one, and that it's okay if you need a break, or that you're tired and exhausted, or that it's uncomfortable and you don't know what to do. Like, all of those feelings are normal, and it's totally fine to be like, I just don't have it today. Like, I just don't have it in me today, and I need a break so that I don't make this worse. Let me call in reinforcements and see who else can provide some respite for me while I just go take a walk or take a nap or whatever it is that you're needing. And so also just acknowledging that, because I don't think we give enough credit to the folks who are doing the caregiving. And that is a hard job to have.
Yes. Thank you so very much. It takes a village, y'all. So go and identify that village. Thank you so much for being part of our village right here, right now. Next week, we're going to have to share what this event is that we're about to do. It's going to be amazing, delicious. So stay tuned for next week. And I'll see y'all. It was good talking with you, Katrina.
You too. Have a good Wednesday. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody.